Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 45 of the Whitey and Will Sports Show. Today is Sunday, September 18th. We are back after we taking last week off. That was my fault. I was wasn't feeling real great on Sunday. I had a pretty bad headache, and so I just said,
now question. This did not involve a hedge trimmer, did it?
No hedge trimmers this time.
Our research staff did a little research. When you said you had a headache, rumor has it might have been an injury from making your backyard really wet with a hose and doing Justin Field belly flops. So I'm not sure. That was unconfirmed.
I wish it was anything that fun, but it was just a good old-fashioned migraine. So anyway, yeah, and we don't have a guest today, but we felt like we really wanted to get together and talk because Effingham High School has won a couple of football games since the last time we talked. And I think that's the thing we want to focus on this week. I kind of did a quick back of the envelope math on where the NTC baseball standings are kind of at. We can talk about that a little bit unofficially, but mostly, I think it's Hearts Day on the show because they got off to that 0-2 start against admittedly a couple of really good teams in St. Teresa and Muhammad Seymour, but
and a couple of teams who have just piled up a gazillion points against other opponents other than Heart.
Those are teams that may not lose a game until the playoffs, and even then may not lose a game. So
and I think it also shows you that Effingham's defense can be a factor.
Effingham's defense is not only good, but it's getting better and better. The Hearts they've rattled off 2 wins. They had Charleston in town last weekend and beat them 31-13 to get their first win on the new playing surface, Klosterman Field at Washington Savings Bank Stadium, which is I say it one time on a broadcast, and then Klosterman Field just kind of rolls out.
Well, that's what you've said for a long time, Whitey. It's an easy thing to do.
But then, Charleston's not very good. And also in that game, they were missing some of their key players.
Yeah, I think you guys saying it. They're missing some people.
So you got to win that one, and Effingham took care of his business. But then this last couple nights ago, Friday night, up at Mattoon, Gaines Field there in Mattoon, they beat Mattoon 34-0. And to me, that's a game that we went into thinking, Mattoon had kind of been on a similar trajectory this season. They had played a couple of pretty good teams early in the year and lost those games, but you can't necessarily say, well, they lost those games, they must be bad. And then they had turned around and beaten Taylorville the week before. And so you're kind of thinking, well, this ought to be a fairly evenly matched game.
Right.
And
plus it's at Mattoon, which Hearts have never had tremendous success there.
And Mattoon's always kind of been a bugaboo for Effingham since they've been in the Apollo. That's not to say that Effingham has lost a bunch of games to Mattoon, but it's not usually easy in my recollection. And you go back to last year, you look at Effingham finishing 4-5. That Mattoon loss was the game they shouldn't have lost. I mean, you can look at some of those other games and say we could have won those, but the Mattoon game was one where you look at it and say,
"Dude, turn it over 5 times."
We should have won that game, and there was no ambiguity about this. The Hearts stomped them. I don't know what else to say. They dominated them on the defensive end of the ball and moved it pretty well offensively, and they're back to 2-2 with all of a sudden the Taylorville team coming to Effingham that lost to that same Mattoon team. And we're at the point in the season now where you can start, kind of playing that game of, well, this is what they did against this team that we already played. And so, at least we have a little something to go on. You start feeling, like that Taylorville game is, one that the Hearts also should feel pretty good about.
And that's this next game, and that's at home versus Taylorville, correct?
Yes.
Taylorville's never.
Yeah.
You dress in the building and you walk through a tunnel, Taylorville people to go through a gate and do a fence. And they may say not nice things to you while you're going through there. So yeah, it wasn't, back in the day. And then you went to when we played at Florida, Whitey, you had to dress at the high school and walk like 2 blocks. We were winded by the time we got to the field.
That's another thing about Effingham's facility is just that
it's all right there.
It's friendly to the visiting team and the visiting fans. Everything is laid out nicely. Before we start talking about Taylorville, the upcoming game, we should definitely talk about. We'll just go in order. Again, 31-13, Effingham beat Charleston a couple of weeks ago, and a couple of long touchdown passes from Tanner Pontius to Andrew Lutz were a big part of the offensive attack there. And that's something that we were looking for before the game was, how is Effingham's passing attack going to look against a team that isn't quite as stout defensively? At some point, you got to get that rolling. You got to be able to throw the football. And they were able to get a lot more work done through the air against that Charleston team. Again, it's a team you needed to get something done against offensively, but the Hearts, they made it look pretty simple. So again, Lutz had I'm looking here, Lutz had a couple of touchdown catches. They were I'm just kind of scrolling through the game story here. A 39-yarder and a 47-yarder. Those were the two passes, and they were deep balls. It wasn't like a little pass where he catches
it. Where then they make a move and he's gone.
Yeah. Especially the first one was more of a deep ball. I think the second one he did make a couple people miss afterwards, but you'll have to forgive me. It's been a couple of weeks. These things kind of they're in and out of my head pretty quickly sometimes, but
and I didn't get to make it to the Charleston game. We were at golf tournament, and I think I got home and grabbed supper, and I was listening to you on the way home, and you were just getting ready to start the third quarter, and I think I was sitting down with some dinner, so I just no, I'm gonna stay home. But great.
One thing about that game for Effingham, Tanner Pontius, it's a game he needed, a shot in the arm kind of game, a confidence game, because against St. Teresa and against Muhammad, there really just wasn't much of a chance for him to do a lot. There were a couple of
good
throws
teams for a reason.
Yeah, there's a couple of throws in those early games that he probably wishes he had back. But for the most part, you couldn't say that the passing attack wasn't happening in those games because Tanner was playing badly. It was because they were just they weren't allowing you to really do much. You weren't making reads, you were mostly getting flushed out of the pocket and having to either throw on the run or decide, whether you wanted to actually throw it or not. Against Charleston and Mattoon, he was able to do his quarterback thing, actually play the position and did a much better job.
And when you're throwing the ball, he's actually getting a chance to look at progressions, not just having to throw, hey, here's my primary and I got to go there, which is good. Yeah. And big win. Mattoon game, listen to most of that on the radio as well. And
they didn't throw as much that night.
I like the Hearts just were able to run the ball and kind of do what they wanted.
Yeah. And Tanner was a pretty big part of the running attack. He had some design runs in that game that went off for double-digit yardage. The thing was, Evan Weymouth, who we'll have to get on this a little bit too. Evan Weymouth is the third feature running back that Effingham has had to use this season because of injuries. And he ended up with 85 yards or so by the time it was all said and done, but it was on 25 carries. So it's not like he wasn't gashing them, but I think that the work he was doing allowed for some of those offbeat plays, those design runs for the quarterback to work very well. And again, when they did put the ball in the air, they had pretty good success. They only passed the ball a dozen times all night, but yeah, Evan Weymouth he went from the blocking back to the guy who is taking a bulk of the carries, and he's doing a good job. The big thing I always look at with guys like that who are kind of forced into a primary role handling the football is, do they hold on to it? Because they're not used to having to do that. And it's
Right.
and that's something that he's really, Effingham as a whole has been pretty good at.
And you get hit harder, and you have more people actually trying to take it away from you in a varsity game than you do a JV, fresh, soft, whatever level that is now. And one thing, Coach Hafner told us preseason was he liked his depth at running back. I don't think he thought he was going to have to use it as much this early.
No.
But, and the kid who kind of was in there after Westendorf's injury,
Weldon Dustin.
Yeah. He was kind of a quicker back. So, and I have heard him, I think it was a Mattoon game or the Charleston game, both. He came in and had some nice carries in those games.
Yeah.
Where it sounded like he's getting the ball with a little space and able to use his quickness, unlike against modern day and not modern day, St. Teresa and Muhammad, where you had, not a lot of room. Sledding was tough. So these games, now you're back to having two different options on the power back and the speed back, and that's good. And it's a good thing to have that depth. Again, I'm not sure Coach wanted to tap into that. And then I hear Michael Love's been coming in as a blocking back and some short situations. As a linebacker, I would not want to meet him in a hole.
No,
knowing he's trying to run, he doesn't have to read anything. He's just trying to run you over.
Yeah, Michael Love is probably at this point in the year my favorite guy to watch on the field. Defensively, anytime there's a busted play where the opposing quarterback is getting flushed out of the pocket, it's because Michael's back there.
He's the flusher.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he's definitely.
Could be like a nickname for him, the flusher. He probably wouldn't like that.
Well,
I remember watching him a little bit last year as a freshman coming in, and didn't seem overwhelmed by the moment. So, the upside here is you've got 2 more years of young Mr. Love.
I got a guest here. He's just getting some paper off the printer, and then he's
homework for his master's program he's enrolled in.
Mike. I mean, that's the thing. Michael's got that combination of he's got the right size to where when he gets a head of steam built up, you're gonna feel it when he makes contact with you. But also, he's still fast. Like he's quick and he's fast. He's
and
because those are 2 different things, and he's both. He's so. Right. I mean, quintessential powerful linebacker who can make
Sure, his brother Matt has taught him what hard work in the weight room does for you, because he transformed his body and career in the weight room. So
Matt Robinson.
I mean, it's good to see, and like I said, he's part of that defense. It's almost like teams are almost trying to run away from him, which is good. Now, when people are trying to go away from you, that helps. You can kind of scheme things that way, but no, when you listen to the games, hopefully Friday, I hope to be able to get back out. I don't know if I'll be able to even get out to this game or not.
Well, and another thing, and I want to touch back on running backs a little bit, but we're on the subject of defense now. And, Coach Hefner told us before the season, I'm going to move Armando Estrada to a defensive back position, leading receiver from last year,
right?
But we're going to put him on the other side of the ball. And let me tell you something, him and then Jack Harper coming into town has transformed the Effingham secondary, which was a bit of a weakness last year. I'm not really in the business of calling out high school kids, but I will say that, that was a place where Effingham got beat sometimes last year.
They were susceptible to a big play.
Yeah. And Armando made a really nice play along the sideline at one point, against Mattoon a couple nights ago, where he just positioned himself perfectly, one-on-one coverage, knocked the pass away without making any contact. So it's two things. It's body awareness, knowing where you are in relation to the guy that you are defending, but then also having an idea of where the football is at and being able to make a play on it. That's not easy. And listen, that's not easy to do. And that's why sometimes you get beat in that part of the field.
Well, and you see so many times, and you see it at all levels. I saw it in the 10 minutes of college ball I watched yesterday. This DB sometimes they're just running with the receiver, have no idea where the ball is. And that's always been you see a lot of that in high school ball as well. So no, that obviously that helps their defense when they have that in the back end. And then that, your front, however many you're bringing, obviously their goal to bring pressure, but now you can maybe do some things when you feel a little more confident on your back end, being able to, they're not on an island. If they're on an island, they can compete.
Yep.
But no, two big wins. Obviously everything's a must moving forward.
Yeah.
And the Taylorville at home, and that's going to be again a big one. But did I hear you guys say Modern Day was 0-3 going into last night or Friday night?
No, they were 1-2. They had won one game. Let me pull up their schedule because maybe they beat
Breeze Central.
Yeah, they lost to Waterloo. They beat Breeze Central. They lost to Belleville Altoff, and then they beat Alton Marquette. 50.
Okay, so they're 2-2.
Yeah, 2-2. Now Alton Marquette's winless, so I don't know. I don't know what to make of Modern Day.
Well, and that's the thing, and that's way down the schedule you're looking. But I don't think it's the Modern Day of 10 years ago or 8 years ago that was just.
You start to feel like that's a game that you're gonna, at least if you play well, you're gonna have a chance. Right. Like,
no, I agree.
And I think even in the best years that Modern Day's had, Effingham's had teams that just have competed with them. I mean, they'll blow your doors off occasionally, but it's usually a pretty good matchup, even in the years where Modern Day is on paper the better team. So, we'll see. Jack Harper had one of those plays that I love to see, which is where he times it perfectly, where
bang.
Yeah, the receiver gets the ball, and that's about the time that
he separates him from the ball. Yeah, I heard that. I heard you guys talk about that.
Yep, those are.
Game.
I didn't play football. Obviously, being from Neoga, we didn't have that opportunity. But I would want to be a defensive back, if only because, well, for one thing, I think it's the only position I probably could have played. But also because just to get to do that one time, I like to do that to somebody one time. Just
the one thing you got to remember as a defensive back is when all of a sudden that big running back turns the corner, sometimes you're the only guy between him and the end zone. And
I mean, I'm certain that it would have come with many more lows than highs, but if I could have just gotten a chance to do that one time, that would have.
Yeah, you can, you're on the island, and that's where you just want to get a hold of something and hang on for help usually.
But we talked about running backs and the fact that that Effingham's on Evan Weymouth at this point, and that Weldon Dunstan has been playing okay, but he tweaked an ankle.
I was gonna say he got banged up too.
Yeah, he tweaked something, and actually Spencer Fox came in and ran the ball a little bit in relief of him in that game. But John Westendorf was the guy at the beginning of the season. He was supposed to be the guy and
put up really good numbers last year.
Yeah, I mean, almost 1,000 yards rushing last year.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, in these last two games, if he's healthy and available, he's stacking up yardage. It's not they're not playing well because John Westendorf's not there. They're playing well in spite of the fact that John Westendorf is hurt. And unfortunately, it doesn't sound like it doesn't sound like we're going to see him.
Yeah, that's what I never knew what the injury was, but now when you get into week 4 and he hasn't been back yet, now you're starting to wonder. So you hate to see that, especially a kid's senior season.
That's a tough one. It's it's no fun. No fun for him. A couple of other guys, Caden Koberline has really emerged in the passing game for Effingham as a receiver. They have started to find him just on some short little. It's nothing fancy. He's just, but it's just another option. And then
is he a speed guy or just a possession guy?
It's more of a possession thing, I think. More of a possession thing for sure.
Kind of a Pat Tilley.
Yeah, that's and then Colton Lloyd caught a touchdown.
Yeah, I heard that was his first catch of the year.
Yeah. He's one of their tight ends, but they'll run a 2 tight end set sometimes. And usually when they have both of those guys in, it is because they're blocking for the run, right? That's their big set, and they're going to run, and they want everybody up on the line. And so,
let's have a contest. Your son and my cat. Let's see who gets on the screen the most.
I say to him, I'm going to be up here recording. Please stay out of the room, and they can't do that. And
hey, they like the limelight like their father.
I'm going to pause this for 1 second, and I'm going to clear the room, and then we will finish. All right, we're back.
All right.
Lots of people know what it's like.
Hey, the value of a live podcast. That's the key.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we could do a heavily produced thing and be in a studio or something, but
this is more fun.
Much easier this way, even when you have to chase the occasional 5-year-old out. So anyway, yeah, Colton Lloyd had a touchdown catch, and that was nice to see. You always like to see kids that are typically role players. I mean, 90% of the time, 95% of the time, if he's on the field, it's going to be because he's blocking, doing the dirty work. And that time he got to catch one. And actually, shout out to Gary Stanfield, because I was looking at some of the pictures that he took from the game, and I didn't realize how close Colton was to going out of bounds on the play. He was that was one of those get the ball to the pylon type of plays.
Right.
That was on the opposite end of the field from where we were sitting. So really, really good effort for him on the touchdown against Mattoon. And also Mattoon's facility is nice. Okay. They redid their field this offseason, also got the field turf, got the nice big scoreboard. And they tore down that big triple decker press box that they used to have. Just got the traditional deal in there. And that's really nice too. And plus everybody there is great when you go to do games. They're all very friendly and helpful, and put up with us. And I know that the mood inside the press box was not so cheerful by the end of the game, because I don't think anybody expected the game.
I think that probably caught them off guard too. They weren't expecting the beat down they took.
Yeah. So, but they're great there, and good luck to them going forward. But Effingham, yeah, Taylorville coming up. Taylorville. Let me look. Taylorville is
1-3, aren't they?
1-3. Yes, their one win is against Elgin St. Edward. I don't know anything about that team other than they are apparently winless this year. And that was a 24-21 win. They lost to Mattoon 17-14 a couple weeks ago. They lost to Mount Zion 21-6 Friday night. And so, Mount Zion's 3-1, but you see that Taylorville apparently, made them work for it. So you start to feel, if you're Effingham, like, if you could play well and take care of your business, you might be able to get a couple more wins here in the next couple of weeks. As you've got, that's what you've got. You've got Taylorville coming in, and then you've got Mount Zion coming in. So you got 2 home games, and then you go to Lincoln after that. It's a crucial stretch, because
and you like I said, this Taylorville game is huge, and the best part is, Coach Effner's, he has them completely focused on that game. Mm-hmm. They know that's the game they got to be focused on. They can't start saying, okay, well, if we get this one, then
yeah, but I can.
Oh yeah, that's why you get the big bucks, buddy.
That's true.
So.
Yeah, Taylorville 1-3, Mount Zion 3-1. Now Lincoln, you got that trip to Lincoln, and they've got a couple of wins. This isn't the Lincoln team that came into the conference,
right? But then somebody smacked them around this weekend.
Muhammad did 63-14.
Right.
what I look at more than anything is they only beat Charleston 20-0. Now, I guess Effingham only beat Charleston by 18. So what am I saying?
Right.
But that was, I just feel like the Hearts are improving. Every team probably feels that way, but I just look at it and I feel like there's really a path to getting to 5-2. What'll happen, I don't know, but I think there's a path to it. I really do, especially with Mount Zion having to travel. But we'll see. That's why they have to play the games, and again, I'm just sitting here counting chickens, and there's 3 weeks of having to stay healthy and having to execute between them and doing that. But you'd really like to be there before you have that season closing gauntlet of Mater Dei and then going to Highland to close it out. So yeah, I don't know. Good for the Hearts though. Good wins. Evan Weymouth, way to step in. Tanner Pontius looking very strong. Andrew Lutz has been a very steady and dependable option in the passing game. And I mentioned Armando Estrada in terms of his defense.
Oh, he had to set the new record. I heard him get that field goal the other night.
Kicked a 44-yard field goal against
Big Anderson. I was probably a freshman or a sophomore in high school when that happened. So that's been a while.
Yeah, that's I'll let everybody at home.
That's over 40 years ago.
Yeah, I was going to let everybody just kind of try to do the math in their head, try to guess.
Well, most people would think it was like 15 years ago, but no, it's been 40 plus. So and I remember Stig hitting that one.
Yeah,
I don't even think that was at home. I think that was on the road. That may have been at Greenville.
This one, I know that Coach Hefner said that Armando's, he even felt like he didn't get it great. Like he didn't. So,
Well, I hear his kickoffs, and it's almost everything landing at the goal from the 5 to into the end zone. So yeah, that's a huge weapon.
No, against Mattoon Friday night, he had 3 touchbacks. Was it 3 touchbacks? And then 3 kicks that were taken inside the 2. Okay.
Right.
Like
that's huge.
Yeah, it's underrated, right? Like it's not underrated by coaches, okay? But
no.
People watching the games, you fixate on quarterbacks, fixate on the skill position guys, and you don't really think about what a good punter and a good kicker can do.
And Pontius has been doing a good job punting the ball.
He gets a lot. He gets it's not just the distance for Pontius either. He gets a pretty good amount of air underneath it. So obviously that makes it a tougher return, and then it tends to roll the right direction too. He hasn't had a lot of those where they
nothing back up on him.
Yeah. He's the opposite of that pitching wedge type of thing, right? Like it gets that little run on the end of it. So he's done a great job. And Effingham has always, for a long time now, they've had somebody pretty dependable punting the ball and doing the kickoffs. It doesn't get that much attention sometimes, but you watch the games every week and you understand how important it can be. So there you go. Go out to Klosterman Field Friday night if you can and see them play Taylorville. It's a big game, and good crowd at the stadium would certainly be. It wouldn't hurt anything, that's for sure. So
no, that'd be good.
There's been some baseball too. This has been kind of a big week for the NTC baseball. Things are sort of shaking out as far as what the NTC, how the season's going. I don't know I'm still not certain on seedings and stuff like that, but St. Anthony and Altamont, basically, they're both, by my count. Now, this is all unofficial because it can be a little confusing sometimes about what's a conference game and what isn't.
Right, because they play each other so many dang times.
But I kind of tried to pick Matt Robinson's brain about this a little bit earlier this week because he follows it closer, kind of knows for obvious reasons. And basically what you've got as of right now, by my count, would be that Altamont and St. Anthony are both sitting at 6-1 in the conference standings. But Altamont's lost is to St. Anthony.
Right.
And St. Anthony's loss is to a Windsor Stew Straws team that has now got 2 conference losses because they lost their game to they've lost to South Central, and they've lost to Altamont. And South Central came into this week without a conference loss, and they got knocked off by St. Anthony and Altamont. Like they got to the toughest part of their schedule and took a couple of losses. Although, man, they gave St. Anthony everything they wanted. St. Anthony beat them 1-0, and Eli Levitt pitched a great game in that one. So South Central sitting at 5-2, Windsor Stew Straws 4-2, and that's sort of the probably where the top 4 seeds are going to be. Some order of that. There's probably maybe a game left for some of these teams to play yet. In Windsor Stew Straws' case, maybe a couple of more conference games, but that's kind of how it's going to be. And then your middle tier, I've got Neoga at 3-3. Neoga hasn't won a bunch of games this year, but they've managed to beat CHBC. They beat Diederich. They beat Brownstown St. Elmo, and North Clay. North Clay's still hovering around 500, both overall and in the conference.
With really 2 restart, 1.5 starters return.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, what that makes you do is think about where they could be in a couple of years if they keep this together the way that last year's seniors were together. Could be a pretty good force to be reckoned with.
I would say the semifinals and final, those games will be really, really good to see.
Yeah. I mean, I think even, Diederich's only got a couple of conference wins, but from what Matt tells me, you catch Diederich on the right day and they can be a little scary. And really, I think the same goes for your Brownstown St. Elmo and your CHBC. Their records are not fantastic in the conference, but they've got spoilers that they can throw in the first round of that tournament and cause you some problems. So that'll be fun to watch, but that's coming up. It's usually the first full week in October when the NTC tournament takes place. And so we'll be keeping an eye on that. I know the Crossroads Classic was recently at Effingham High School. I don't really know a lot about it, but from the sound of it, it went off well.
And local teams, I think, were okay. Nobody was in the big flight. Sure. I saw the other night they had a Windsor Stew was at T-Town, and that went went pretty close. That was a 3-gamer. And so, it's, I've heard Windsor's really got some good kids, and T-Town's kind of learning, and obviously it's an all new system under Coach Dietz. So, I don't know. I haven't been able to see anything but golf.
Yeah. And that's kind of where I'm at. Obviously my attention is going to be mostly on the ones that I get a chance.
Yeah. I mean, you've been to football and you've done some baseball games. I do want to say last weekend, St. Anthony won the 40 team. Craig Dixon Invitational up at Mattoon. We were up there, great tournament. Very good field. You play one day at Mattoon Country Club, you play the other at Meadowview. And St. Anthony was victorious, which that's a huge win for them. I think it's the first time they've won it. But that's really big. And then yesterday they turned around and won the Paris Invitational. I don't know who all was at that Invitational. It wasn't on the IHSA scoring system we'll be using in the postseason per se. But, if there's people out there that want to really like golf and want to see some quality high school golf, St. Anthony has their match play tournament tomorrow. Again, weather permitting, but it looks like all the weather's going to be out of here by early to mid-morning.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Whitey, I did watch the weatherman for Channel 3 during halftime of the Cowboys game. I was watching it because there wasn't anything on it. It was too hot to be in the yard. And and this kid's from Diederich, so he's got to be official, But he used the word, and it was west of us, pool ball size hail. That's I've never heard a weatherman say that before. He said pool ball, there is possibility for pool ball sized hail. And I think that may be west of 55 when it comes in. And then it would be dropping to golf ball size hail. And having been hit by a golf ball, you get hit by hail the size of a golf ball, it will hurt.
So is pool ball size a little, I guess a little smaller than a baseball then? Is that
just wouldn't have seams on it, I guess. Maybe that's the difference. I don't
well,
know.
when you said pool ball, at first I was thinking like inflatable, like swimming pool. I was like, wow.
Like, yeah, just like, you know, when you back in the day at the Neoga pool, you'd be out there in the shallow with your floaties on, tapping one of those balls.
There's never been a Neoga pool. There's definitely been lots of times out in the Lake Mattoon in the backyard when I was a
there
kid.
You go. There you go. Yeah, I don't know. But this starts at 1 o'clock. St. Anthony, Teutopolis, Olney, Paris, Anna Jonesboro, West Frankfort, Massac County, and Benton are the 8 teams that will be there. So you have your 6 players, and so we have 2 singles players and then 2 two-man team players. So that's how your 6 play, and they play a 9-hole match. My number 1 will play a kid from Olney, the Neelis, who's actually their number 2. Their number 1 must be playing doubles. And then you'll play a 9-hole match, and then you'll switch and play another kid a 9-hole match. And then you've got your 2 doubles, and they play better ball. So each kid plays their own ball, and you take the low score. But Benton, who was a 2A state champ last year, and Cy Norman, who's like good. I mean, last year he had was on number 2 at the country club, par 3, about 120 yards. Well, I don't remember what yardage you were playing. And he was 1 up with 2 to play. And he stepped up and holed out for a hole-in-one. And Mr. Hornicke, I can't remember his first name, looked at Coach Zakari and Coach said, just throw it in on top of him. And he hit it to about a foot. So, but I'm telling you, there is some really, really good golf going to be played tomorrow at the country club. Really good.
So,
and, you know, you can just kind of come out, find a spot. You're going to see a lot of kids come through, and good day. I just hope the weather cooperates. You know, the good thing is if the rain's gone, that'll help the humidity as the day goes on.
Yeah. Is it true that if somebody shows up tomorrow and finds you and says, I'm here because I heard about it on the podcast, that you'll treat him to a cold drink? Is that
I've got a cooler full of water bottles that I own. I have a golf cart. If I had room, Whitey, if you were there, I would let you ride around in the cart with me.
Well, I'll tell you.
Tomorrow, I know you're going to say, "Oh, I got to work." I understand.
I got to work, and we got to go look at some cabinets. You know,
We'll still be playing at 5 o'clock.
Well, you know, I don't know. I'm heading up to. We'll just have to see. Heading down to Effingham tomorrow to go over to Meddy's and take a look at something they got.
Well, come early. Come out to the country club. I'll wheel you around a little bit in the golf cart. You can see the pressures of being a high school golf coach.
It's I'm sure it's probably nerve-wracking stuff.
But you got to find places where you can sit and watch where you don't get hit, because my golf cart got hit back-to-back balls in about a minute apart at Mattoon Country Club.
Hey, speaking of golf, real quick, Friday night at the football game, Greg read off the numbers from the Carl Koerner.
Yeah. How much was it this year? 46?
$46,500 to each school. Effingham,
that's impressive.
They each get $46,500. It's the Carl.
Now, here's what I'll tell you, and it's grown over the years. It really has. But the Koerner family every year wants to have that check a little bigger. So there's some rounding that goes on, let's just say, from them to always kind of make sure that check is a little bigger, because you can only have so many teams play.
Yeah.
And now they have some auctions and do some things, which is awesome. But what the Koerner family does for Effingham Santhony High School Sports Backers Booster Club is incredible. Mm-hmm. It really is. And the time and effort that's put into this thing, it's a lot of work. I mean, I was involved with it years ago, and it is a quality event, and they do a tremendous job with it.
Yeah, I mean, I just, coming from the school district I do, like, I mean, that amount of money, I think about, what it doesn't even compute. But obviously bigger schools, but they do so much with it. That's the thing, is that they do so much with it, and really so many kids benefit from that money.
Well, and each school does something different with it, because at Effingham, it's there to help with other things. I mean, they help the sports backers, will help kids go into camps. They'll do some great things, with the scoreboard and in the gym. They were, that was pretty much, I think, their baby as well. Mm-hmm. And then at St. Anthony, in essence, the Booster Club, they are the athletic budget. It's not like, the school says, okay, we're setting aside so much money this year for sport. Yeah. No, the Booster Club that's what they do. And, so they're paying officials. They buy buses. They pay for the gas. They don't pay coaches stipends, but they do just about everything else. And again, two outstanding groups, and I'll throw T-Town Sports Backers in there as well. Worked closely with them when I was AD, and then closely with them as they help with our Christmas tournament every year, which, Whitey, we're in for some treats this Christmas. I'm just giving you a heads up.
Okay.
We gonna have some players this year.
I'm looking forward to it. I always look forward to it.
I hope it's not overhyped, but I do see this kid from Lincoln Way East who's going to be a freshman, who's getting offers from small D1 schools. And the kid's only going to be a freshman. I haven't talked to Coach Collimus about him yet, but I've seen video of him.
It won't be that long, Mike, before we're talking about basketball here.
It's coming. As soon as golf season's over, then we get very, very involved in the Christmas tournament. We've had one meeting so far. So our Christmas in July actually got moved back to August. So we'll meet again here probably in another week or two.
Now, did I hear your doorbell ring in the background? Does that mean your dinner guest is there?
Supper has arrived. The Hall of Famer is here, and I'm amazed. He's stayed out of it. He's not walked behind and let us know he's here, and he's not come over and start talking.
Well, if we
trying to get involved in the podcast.
Some of our biggest numbers have come on.
I know. If we just have him like walk in and smile and say hello, we'll probably get 50 extra views.
Well, we can wrap it up, because we've talked about the football. We've talked about, I think, what we need to talk about. We don't really need to talk about Albert Pujols breaking, getting past A-Rod on the home run.
Well, that was
nobody cares about that.
If he's short of 700, as long as he passed A-Rod.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I know he's sitting at 698 now, and I know a lot of people like to see him get 700. And the round number is nice, but moving up on the leaderboard to me would be the big thing.
And it's not like he's hitting them against second baseman in games that are 12-0. I think his last three have either tied or given him the lead after the seventh inning.
Well, I don't remember the exact time span, but I had seen very recently that, like, since the All-Star break, something like that. I mean, he's been one of the best hitters in baseball. And that's not just against left-handed pitching. That's like
since a date, maybe it was August 15th. 3 players have hit over 10 home runs in Major League Baseball: Judge, Pujols, and Trout.
And Judge hit his 59th of the season today. So he's
carrying that team.
He really is. Remember when we had Chad Green on here and they were like on pace to win 120 games?
They were going to be better than
him to not get. Felt terrible for him to not get to be a part of it. And now, like, he's probably glad that he hasn't had to be there for the day-to-day of something.
Well, and they're getting a little thin-skinned. I saw where Boone got all upset because Jordan Montgomery said it's such a breath of fresh air to pitch in St. Louis. That didn't settle well in New York.
Well, I don't know.
Plus the fact that Harrison Bader still has yet to shag a fly ball in the outfield.
Nothing settles well in New York. That's the first thing. They have a bit of an adversarial media presence there, which can't make it easy to play there, I wouldn't think. But
and the other thing, just one last baseball thing. I'm glad Juan Soto is a Padre.
Oh, well,
I mean, he's going to have an
over the course of
incredible next probably 5 years or whatever, however long he's in San Diego. Boy, he's struggled, Whitey.
You never know. Maybe if he'd gotten to go play for the best fans in baseball,
well, there you go.
Be doing
Maybe
better.
I didn't want to give up all the people we were going to have to give up for him.
Well, I don't know. It seemed like a pretty good trade for San Diego at the time, and I think in the long run they'll probably take it. But I did see where I off the top of my head, I'm not even remembering the guy's name that the Nationals had to bring up to play in the outfield for them, but the guy was one of those 29, 30-year-old guys making his major league debut, and it's a good story, but obviously if they were much of a player, they would have probably already gotten their chance, right?
But
and
they got they got a load of prospects in that deal. Really,
that guy's been hitting better than Soto,
Yeah.
It's a fluky thing, I think. I mean,
and it'll all come back, and he'll be a great player and probably have a Hall of Fame career. It's just, now it looks like it was a great move by the Cardinals not to pull the trigger on giving that much up.
Anyway,
all right, that's enough Major League Baseball, because then pretty soon we're going to start talking about the Braves and how they're jinxed with another injury. So I don't want to talk about that.
Well, they've got a pretty good guy that's playing in Albies' place, so I'm not too. They've done everything they've done this season without Albies, so it stinks for him. But I think they'll be okay. They'll be okay. But there is a Bears game that's starting in about half an hour. And I don't have any hopes for this Bears season, but it would be.
Hey, don't injure yourself in the yard this time. Just
it would be enjoyable to me to knock off Aaron Rodgers, just because I really don't like him very much. I don't have bad feelings towards the Packers in general, but I kind of really just don't like Aaron Rodgers very much. So
when you're just kind of a so-so Rams fan, you really don't get caught up in all the. So I'm okay. People start bad mouthing the Rams. I'm just quiet. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah, I think I've mostly transformed into more of I don't want to call myself a fair weather Bears fan, but more of I'm not going to let it upset me when they stink.
So you're not the meathead Bears fan?
No.
Okay.
Listen, I'm almost I'm going to be 39 here in a month and a half.
You don't have 4 Bears on your fantasy roster. See that?
I don't have any Bears. I mean,
attaboy.
I don't even know 4 Bears that should be on anybody's fantasy roster.
Just saying. I guarantee you can find people, Bears fans, that have 4 Bears on their roster.
No, that's not me. I mean, when they're good, I'll get excited, but when they're bad, I'm not going to let it upset me, because that's a lot of years of my life that would be messed up by the Bears if I let that happen. So you can't be that way.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. Well,
hey, happy anniversary.
We will reconvene. Oh yeah, we've been doing this for a year now. That's the other thing I forgot to mention.
The over was at 3 months, so we won.
We're still at it.
We may have a guest next week. I have a guest that is ready to come on. It's just getting it all set up.
Well, hopefully that'll be the case. I always like to talk to somebody.
Yeah, he usually goes to bed early, so sometimes it's hard to get a guy to do a Sunday night. So we'll get it figured out.
We got to figure something else out. We can hash it out.
I know. All right. That'll work.
Eat your supper. I'm going to watch the Bears embarrass Aaron Rodgers on national TV, and then we will talk again next week.
Uncle Larry may or may not have bought supper. I don't know yet. I'm not privy to that information.
Well, hopefully it's good. That's all I got to say.
All right,
take it easy.